y'all took me like 3 years off my plan. And the craziest part is the second half of AE Mastery, I've gone through it, but I haven't really gone through it, to where I'm like, all right, I need this. I should be doing this. I should set the system up. Like, I'm still back in the front, And now I'm just like, man, like in a year, like what is the return I'm going to get on the second half? Like I already got this return on the first half. Like once I really go through these lessons and learn them and, understand them and, what's going on, like, I'm excited.
I'm really excited to share my conversation with Augustin today. It's going to be a deep dive into the account executive role and what he's done to not only become very successful at his previous company, but ultimately recently get a 40% raise, jumping to a market-leading tech company. Whether you're an account executive, an SDR trying to break into tech sales, there's tons of great nuggets here. And this is something that really happens, I think, throughout different points of your tech sales career, where if you have a track record of success, if you are performing extremely well, you will hit plateaus where you really have to fight for yourself and fend for a promotion internally. And ultimately, if that's not happening over a 6 to 12 to 18 month period, sometimes you have to make a difficult decision and go to another company who's willing to pay you what you're worth. I don't want to blindly encourage you to just leave jobs. There's certainly situations I've seen where people leave too soon, but Augustin is a great example and something we'll dive into today of someone who had optimized their process, who had gone above and beyond as an account executive at their current company, and ultimately was able to leverage that to get a substantial increase in pay and now work at a market leader, which we're really excited for. Augustin, this was a great conversation. I know everyone watching is going to get a ton out of it. We're excited to see where it takes you in the next 12 to 24 months.
Hey everyone, really excited to speak with Augustin this week, who's part of our AE Mastery program. He recently was an account executive, made a job change, and ultimately got over a 40% pay increase, which is something we'll definitely get into as to how and why you made that change. Maybe painting the picture for everyone, let's start from the beginning. Where were you at as an account executive, and what ultimately kind of got you looking at higher levels in the first place?
Yeah, guys. So for me, I started off as an SDR at a company, Mkinson, and got promoted to AE fairly quickly. Fortunate of that, very grateful. And, it was my first job in sales. So, the whole year and a half, almost 2 years that I was there, I had to Frankenstein a lot of what I was doing. And, about I'd say 3-4 months into my AE journey, I stumbled upon Eric and Chris's YouTube page and really just started listening to them because I was trying to consume as much as I could. And what really set me to define them as a source of truth for me was the discovery framework video that they produced, because that just outlined, for me, how discovery should be ran. And once implementing that video alone and everything that I learned, it absolutely changed everything for me and how I worked. And that's when I said, okay, I'm going to trust these guys and believe in them.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think that's a common thing that we see. I mean, obviously there's no silver bullet to this. There's a lot of different approaches, but that's great to hear that even the stuff on YouTube was kind of helping you, just give you something to even mimic and start to make your own. Kind of on that thread, I'm curious, as an account executive, I know one of the things we've talked about is maybe there was some lacking training. You didn't necessarily have tons of support. Were there anything else that you really felt you were struggling with as a new account executive that also contributed to say, hey, I need some sort of training and guidance?
Yeah, it was ultimately training and guidance and feedback. I did receive some, and I'm grateful for it, of course. But I wish I was receiving much more, especially at the volume of calls that I was doing, anywhere from, 40 up to 60, even 80, sometimes even 100 calls a day. So definitely wanted feedback because I knew that there was a lot of room for improvement for me, and had to learn to really look back as a third person and really see, okay, how did this call go? What could I have done better? And really everything that I was telling myself in the third perspective was based off of mainly what I was telling myself was based off of what you guys taught.
Nice. I love it, man. I love it. And it's been awesome, like just working with you in general. I think like even seeing the journey from when you joined to crushing it at your old role to then like even moving up into an even better role. It's been a pretty cool evolution, to say the least. Maybe like taking a step back, like obviously you said you watched some of her content that made you feel comfortable. were you looking at like different programs, other types of training at the time? Like, was there anything else that made you say like, yeah, I trust these guys apart from maybe the discovery training? Because I know, you know, jumping into a paid program, if you haven't perhaps done that too much in the past, is a big leap for a lot of folks.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, actually, it was my wife who kind of forced my hands to say, "All right, just buy it. You know, just get it done." Because I was hesitant. I'm not, I'm a big spender, and of course, being the first time, I was uh, cautious. But I did consider other courses, but never really seriously. What made me consider you guys seriously was just the authenticity that you guys bring, and just how real you guys were. Being in a different field, uh, I was able to relate to a lot of what I was going through, even though we weren't selling into similar, aspects of business. And that right there was like, okay, they understand me, they know what I'm going through, and they're telling me things that I can take and really critically think about of how to implement on my side. And ultimately, that's when I said, okay, let's do it. If they put something out, I'm gonna believe it and trust it.
Nice. I love it. I love it. And now that you've been through the program, obviously, like I've had a chance to kind of like be on coaching calls with you, and it's been awesome. You were actually one of the earlier students, which meant we got a lot of like, closer time together. Some of the other
Yeah.
programs, there's a lot more students in there. So we got to work very closely. But I guess now that you've been through the program, it's a pretty extensive program. There's a lot of different elements as part of it. Is there a particular part of the program that you feel like just kind of like changed the game? You mentioned discovery was one thing. Anything else, or maybe like one area that was the most impactful by far?
I'd say the administrative portion of organizing yourself and really, behind the scenes, um, learning how to organize all that and set yourself up for success so that, it's very easy, clean to see and digest and know what actions to take next. Because as account executives, time is valuable to us. And so not spending, 20 minutes trying to figure it out and then analyzing it, and just taking, okay, 5 minutes to locate it and then, 10 minutes to analyze and take action was definitely, for me, the biggest game changer.
Yeah.
One of the biggest game changers, you could say.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot to unpack there too. And maybe kind of on that thread, I know one of the things we talked about when you joined is, trying to maximize your current opportunity that at the time, had some pros, had some cons, like any role will. So maybe there, like, could you speak to, some of the things you did to try and improve at your current job, and then what ultimately said, hey, it is time to look elsewhere. It is time to see what I can get out in the market.
Yeah, ultimately was just, I'm a big team player. I like to work as a team. I'm not afraid to show what I'm doing. I like to see other people succeed around me. And ultimately, after a couple of attempts of trying to showcase, what my thought process was and my steps, not entirely everything, but just bits and pieces here and there, and really seeing that, the organization at which I was at wasn't really receptive. That's what ultimately led me to say, okay, I need to find somewhere else where, you know, the team and the organization wants to listen to me, and take my feedback.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And like, to be clear to anyone out there watching, like, the course is not designed per se to have you like leave your current company and get a higher offer. Just to be very clear, like, obviously that happened here and we're very excited for you. I am curious, whether it's some of the skills that you mentioned, the way you can organize your administrative tasks, the way you're better planning your territory. Is there anything from that also helped you translate into performing very well in interviews and ultimately landing a job outside of your current AE role?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just the organization of what you guys taught for organizing my reports and or putting yourself in the best position to succeed. All those organizational skills definitely translate into the interviews, because I definitely believe they could tell that I was kind of all over the place. I didn't have anything set up. I was kind of Frankenstein it. And, for the organization that I went to, is a market leader into the specific portion of business that we sell into. So, they were looking for someone that could definitely come in and get the job taken care of. And I did plenty of interviews where I could tell at the end, I was like, yeah, they picked me apart. They put me on the chopper and started slicing and dicing. So that right there was the biggest game changer for the interview portion.
Nice. I think everybody has had those experiences. I don't think anybody, just like shows up to an interview and is like, it's so funny, like how that is the expectation a lot of the times. Is like people just think that we do the same thing, that we just show up to an interview, we just absolutely crushed it, like from the first second that we reached out to a hiring manager. So it's pretty funny that there is that expectation, but no, I love it, man. I think you've absolutely crushed it, and I've kind of like seen your growth as well, like how you've progressed through it, and how also like how willing you are to learn and to be like, you're very coachable, to say the least. I guess like maybe just as closing here, like you've been through quite the journey already. Like even though you've only been part of the program for a short amount of time, you've gone through a lot. Like you've crushed it. You've gotten into a new role. I think there's a lot of folks out there who are considering like moving into a new role, but don't know what that means for their career. Maybe any tips for folks like that who are in that situation, or maybe like for your younger self, if you could go back in time, give yourself some piece of advice, like what would that be?
So before I purchased the course, I can't remember which episode it was, but Chris, you mentioned that, wherever it is you want to view yourself in the next 5 to 10 years, surround yourself with those people. And that's what I would tell anybody is, where do you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years, and do everything in your power to surround yourself at, no matter the cost. Of course, there's things that you should watch out for, of course, but do everything in your power to do that, because ultimately that's one of the decisions when I made the purchase that I was very comfortable was, I know where Chris is at. I know where Eric is at. They have great careers, and that's what I want to have. Something of that level, working at marketing companies like them. And ultimately, that was also another comforting thought to myself to say, okay, let's get this done, on top of, what my wife told me, of course. But that's what I would tell somebody. Surround yourself with people that you want to surround yourself with, people that you see and you want to be where they're at, in a similar place, of course. So something like that. That's what I would say.
Nice. I love it. And shout out to your wife. I love that she was an advocate of ours before you even were. So that's I'll keep you to that.
Hey, there's things that I overthink. I'm more of the guy that kind of just acts, but sometimes there's times where I overthink things and just too much. And she's like, just get it done, boy. Like, come on. But no, she's amazing.
Oh, I love
it. She's real happy. She's loving it, man. She's like, tell him I said thank you. I said I will.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it, man. Well, Augustin, like super proud of like your journey. I have no doubt in my mind you're gonna absolutely crush it. Like even 6-12 months from now, at Flock, like I'm sure you're gonna be a top performer if you aren't already. So appreciate you taking the time. For everybody else's reference, we're gonna drop Augustin's LinkedIn down below. So, Augustin, if you're not too busy with ramping and kind of like getting caught up to speed, definitely reach out to him. There's a lot of gold in there. I love like just your wisdom as well. Like I think it's very refreshing to talk to you. You have a very open mindset to just about everything. So yeah, I appreciate the time. And I think there's a lot of good nuggets in here for anybody else listening. Eric, I don't know if you have any famous last words, but this was killer.
Yeah, appreciate all the insight. I know everyone watching is going to get a lot out of it. And yeah, really excited to see where the new gig takes you. I know we were talking beforehand, first week, already seeing some quick wins. So keep it up, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.